Good morning. It is a lovely early summer morning. Technically still spring a little bit. And thankfully, there is some cloud cover, so I got to take my blast shield up so I can actually hear myself think. All right, so today we're going to talk about something that I was inspired by looking at anthills. And we are going to now walk into the wealthy people neighborhood to see what exactly is going on this morning. There is a gentleman and a dog whom I am very familiar with. That is the little dog. They let me walk sometimes, but I will not be bothering them this morning. So, I noticed that in the last few weeks, there's been a prevalence of bees, wasps, ants, coming about when the weather warms up like always. Being a man of the West, being a woman of the West, you probably understand and intuit a love of natural creatures. It seems to be a pretty common thing among white people. I also love nature, all of its critters, fishes and bugs and bears and all kinds of stuff, right? Nature's cool. I like nature. But still, we use bug zappers. We spray pesticides around our houses. We'll put out things like candles that make bugs go away. Why do we do this if we love nature? Well, because there's a difference between loving the creatures of nature and loving your own family and loving your own well-being. And so when I see the little anthills popping up everywhere, when I see all the new bees coming about, what's a really loud bird up there? I wonder if we can see it. Oh, there it goes. When we look at the creatures around our houses, where we live, there's all kinds of things. There's woodpeckers that will come by and peck little holes in your siding. You want to get rid of them. There are carpenter bees that will bore holes in anything wood. There are wasps and hornets and yellow jackets and dangerous bugs that can sting your pets or your kids or yourself. We don't like those things because they threaten what we value most. They threaten our livelihood, our children. And so we don't hate these things. We just want them gone. We don't want them bothering us. We don't want to annihilate every bear, dog, wolf, bee, ant in the world. We just don't want them in our homes where we live. We don't want them threatening the things that we value. And we know that if you leave carpenter bees and ants and hornets and wasps and foxes and coyotes alone, and you don't keep them at bay, raccoons, black bears, brown bears to a degree, but black bears especially, raccoons, possums, rats, mice, snakes even, spiders. These things, if you don't keep them out, if you don't go to efforts to remove all of these dangerous nature creatures from your environment, then you don't have an environment for you. And so this is how you should view and talk about when it comes to mass immigration, notable blocks of different ethnic groups of people being brought into white countries and white cities to make it not white anymore. Because look at the horrible things that have been done to all of our major cities. Malmo, Sweden, Paris, France, London, England, New York City. Well, New York City's kind of always been a shithole, but you look at the major cities in the world, right? In the Western world, I should say. They've been white erased. They've been supplanted by different groups with different interests, using sometimes other groups against white people, and sometimes other groups against non-white people. When you have different groups together, they fight. They have conflict. They don't get along. We know this from our normal lives. We know that when you introduce different kinds of creatures into the same area, they compete for resources and they keep to each other and band together tribally to fight against the other groups. We see this in the natural world outside of human beings, but it applies to human beings too. So, wanting to have an end of immigration, wanting there to be a moratorium on immigration, supporting policies that will, like Enoch Powell said, create incentives and disincentives to get rid of the immigrants that we do have and police the ones that we have to make sure that they will work for us and be good for our culture. These are valuable, noble things to consider, and this is a noble way to talk about it. You can say, all of this white erasure, this biological white erasure of bringing in foreigners, it's not that I hate Africans or Iranians or Chinese or whatever. It's that I think it's wrong to hurt my people and to erase me genetically, biologically, culturally from what I am supposed to have. The white countries that we have, except for outside of continental Europe, we don't have any homeland besides Europe. The people that live in the Commonwealth countries, the people that live in the United States, we are still very new as a country, only a few hundred years old. And we don't even have anywhere to go back to now. Because this horrible anti-white empire, this Israeli United States usury racket, and this that pushes pause, that pushes petrodollar and mass immigration and all this other anti-white crap like feminism and shit, it's destroying Europe too. We don't have anywhere to go. So when we talk about the things that are bad for us, it has to be through a local lens. We can't talk about saving the homeland or whatever because we don't really have a homeland, do we? We don't. Even if you're listening to this in Europe right now, look around. Maybe you live in Belgium, maybe you live in Germany, maybe you live in England. Does your homeland even feel like it's for you anymore? I live in one of the best places in America to live, and I've noticed a decline here. If you live in one of the good places in Europe, or you live in one of the good places in Great Britain still, you probably have noticed it too. Not just the foreigners themselves, but the white people in our countries. The evil anti-white white people. It's like they're on a mission from their evil God to bring in as much disastrous, destructive policies and people that they can. It would be like if you had a small home. Maybe you have a dog, a couple of kids, and a wife. And you said to your wife and your kids, you know what will be really good for us? If we let the ants and the coyotes and the foxes just come in through the gate whenever they want. If we let the carpenter bees burrow in and set up nests in our house as much as they want. If we let the woodpeckers outside, if we don't chase them away or put out the whatever that paint stuff is that you put on that makes the woodpeckers not want to peck there. Like, if you don't, like this, it would be like a husband saying, we're going to undo all that. And we're just going to let all the critters of nature just come on into our house. We're going to leave the door open so all the bugs can get in. All the spiders can get in. Snakes can get in. Rats and mice can get in. Because diversity is good for us. It's going to make our home and our family much safer and stronger. When you phrase it like that, it might help people understand what you're talking about. Because pretty much everybody understands you have to have some measure of gatekeeping or you don't have anything. Like, what's the difference between what I just described and camping? Very little. It's just a building that you have opened to nature and you just let the natural forces come in and do whatever they want. Ants and snakes and whatever, right? Well, then you don't have a house anymore. This is not really a home, is it? No, it's not. And so that little analogy about a home and just opening up your doors to all the forces of nature, whether it be wind and rain, whether it be a coyote that's going to come in and steal your food or your baby, whether it's a fox that's going to eat your cat. Like, if you just open up and say, yeah, no gatekeeping, we'll just, maybe we'll keep out the worst of the worst. We're not going to let any wolves come about. Not going to let any tigers come in. But if you're just going to let everything else just come in, then you don't have a home anymore. It's not separate from nature anymore. It's not separate from the chaos of nature. It's not man anymore. And I feel like that we could say that about the massive amounts of immigration, especially from the more unfortunate parts of the world, we will say, to be kind, of these people who act Like, they don't even comprehend what it's like to be a part of our civilization, to be a part of our cultural norms. It's like it doesn't even matter to them. Like, we've all seen videos of the violence, of information on rape gangs, like, and the African immigrant killing and cooking a cat. I think that was in Spain or Italy or something. It's like, you cannot just let in the wild creatures of nature and expect them to naturally comport to your cultivated culture that has taken centuries upon centuries to cultivate and to harness. It's just, it's a difference of pattern. It's a paternal difference in people. And you just can't have that. Even within my own race, right? I don't think that mass immigration is good. Like this lovely place here, right? There's a little place not far from here close to Dollywood called Gatlinburg. Because there were a lot of people of German ancestry that also settled here and that like this area. And there's a nice, quaint little German mountain-style village that became a little tourist spot, right? It's called Gatlinburg. It's a German word. And the people that made that, I'm sure, are great. But if in my little town, let's say, the town I live in is only like, counting all of the rural area put together, the little shire that I live in is maybe 10,000 people, right? Maybe. As much as I like Germans, as much as I like white people, if you brought to my little area of like 9 or 10,000 people, if you brought in 1,000 Germans all at once, well, that would severely impact my cultural identity. It would severely impact church. It would impact business. And again, I love Germans. I like the Germans that I've known. Of course, every country has its bad parts, but, you know, I just picked Germany off the top of my head because there's a Gatlinburg near here. There's people of German descent here. So it's very sympathetic here and like rural village German life. Like, we would get along. But even if you brought in 1,000 or 2,000 of them in short order, it would be highly destabilizatory to the cultural norms and the businesses and stuff here. Because they would be a different people from a different, not a different people per se, but like a different ethnicity of the same people from very far away with a different language and different cultural norms. As similar as we are, even that in a massive influx would cause destabilizing problems. And so when you start looking at different peoples, Asians, Africans, South Americans, and they start coming in large numbers, then you have the worst of the worst. War-torn refugees, criminals, savages. Those people are being brought in too. So that's why I like using the nature description of just letting it all in. You know, a raccoon is pretty cool. A raccoon is a cute little animal that likes to eat your trash. They call them trash pandas around here sometimes. And they're nice, right? Like, they're not like horrible little creatures. They're not gonna, like, at the drop of a hat, gonna jump up and maul your face or whatever. But they're not people. They're not people. They will put their own little raccoon kids ahead of your family. They will steal food from you to feed their little raccoon babies. Same for foxes. Same for coyotes. Same for deer or bear. These creatures, as cool as they might be and as much as we like them, they're not us. And so I think it's important to frame it in a way that is relatable and sensible. So you can say that all this white erasure, all of this mass migration stuff, all this anti-white rhetoric to try to force us to be copacetic with having massive amounts of foreigners come in and set up shop where we live. It would be the same thing as saying, why have a door? Why have a bug zapper? Why use pesticides? Like, we're all the same, right? Like, you know, you should be cool with you know, a hornet's nest outside that might sting your kid. Well, that's the price you pay for living in a big city, huh? Like, I don't know. I see, the last few weeks I've noticed a prevalence in all the nature creatures coming back out and being alive and stuff, and all the active countermeasures that everyone around here takes to, you know, keep them from messing up your garden, from messing up your farm, from messing up your house. And that same thing could apply to different kinds of humans being forced to live together. We're not meant to do that. Birds of a feather flock together. That's as true now as it was 1,000 years ago. And it's wrong to act otherwise. It is a lie. So don't act that way. Tell people that you put your own family and kin first, your community first, and then you're part of a bigger people, a race, a civilization. That has to come first too. So you can't allow the framing to be anything else other than birds of a feather flock together. I'm not just going to open up my home to the elements and let all the random creatures come in that want, because then me and my family suffer and I don't have a home or a family anymore. I think that's a good way to put it. So I guess we're going to leave it off with that today. That's what was on my mind. This Thursday, I am taking point on Empire of Lies, and I realized that even though we were going to sort of take turns with who was in the driver's seat for Empire of Lies, Chris has been so fired up and writing stuff so much that he's been the main speaker for basically every episode of Empire of Lies. So this week, I'm going to be in the driver's seat, and I'm going to be the main speaker on Empire of Lies this week. So hopefully that goes well. I'm sure it will. And I have 2 topics that I'm rolling around at this point, so I don't exactly know what I'm doing yet, but I have 2 ideas, and I've written a little for each one. So we'll see what comes of it, and hopefully it should be good. So I will be doing another reading of Days of Rage, Read and React with Raging Mandrill in the near future. I don't know exactly when that's going to be because he's trying to work in a lot before he has to get busy with school and stuff. But I will make a community post about it on YouTube and, of course, on my social media. So you can look forward to that as well. I love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week. Just keep heart. We are gaining ground in some areas. We're doing good. Just keep heart. Keep speaking the truth, keep taking positive actions, and building the best you and the best family and community that you can, and consciously keep the anti-white stuff out as much as you can in your personal life. So we'll leave it there. Have a great week, everybody. I'll see you Thursday for Empire of Lies.